Agam,
How's it going?
it's good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah.
Good. I'm so glad. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. Donkey Head is
Oh,
amazing. I loved it.
oh, oh, thank you. Thanks. Thanks for saying that.
Well,
I'm glad that it resonated.
yeah, it's beautiful and it's funny and it's sad and it's honest and there's so many things mixed in with it that thought were wonderful. So thank you. Um,
Oh.
I was wondering for you where the idea for this particular film stems from.
Well, I started writing it a long time ago, just simply as an exploration of family. And it was always about four siblings. But it's gone through a lot of different renditions over the years. Sometimes the parents were alive, sometimes they were dead. Sometimes they were in Connecticut, sometimes they were in Canada. So it's just really sort of jumped around. But at the core, it was about these four siblings. And I wanted to make something that felt like, you know, I mean, films that I loved watching and filmmakers that I loved. I love indie films. I love films about family. I love coming of age films. I love filmmakers like, Noah Baumbach and Woody Allen and just sort of like just trying to explore that, but from my own personal lens. And then over time it just became a lot more personal. And I started putting more of my own life and my own experiences into it.
I love that you talked about coming of age films because this feels like a coming of age film. Uh, and it feels like we're never done coming of age.
Yes, I know. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's always like I do call this a coming of age film that's a few decades late. And I think those are the hardest to deal with in life, right? Like you're nearing 40 and you realize you don't know anything, and it's just so like how do you move forward? How do you change at that age versus when you're like young and beautiful and 16? It's just so much easier, to be like, oh well, I guess this is life. Now I have to go on in my beauty and, and all my youth to like live life. But when you're older, it's just like, it's a little bit devastating, but so much more rewarding and so much more beautiful to watch, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how we come to this place where I mean um, we're in this place with the family that is caught between caring for their father but also trying to live their own lives at the same time. Everything is sort of mixed in together they try and come to an understanding of who they are. And I was wondering, from your perspective, one of the things that I thought was really wonderful about the film was this: there's a real tension going on between generations, in the sense that you have this father who, although he's very ill, the aunt and all of these people are coming with their own understanding of the way things work, of culture, of faith, of proper etiquette, of all of these things. But then you have these four siblings who are living in a very different world. I was wondering if you could speak to that tension. What is that like, and trying to how do we reconcile those two things?
Hmm. Um, I mean, I think that's a very common experience for someone from that culture, from this culture. There's always been this push and pull between tradition and like the Western way of doing things. Um, and this push and pull um, of the way of duty versus what you want to do with your life, because duty is a huge part of South Asian culture.
Mm.
So I don't know if it's a way to like, I don't know if there's a way to reconcile it. I think um I mean, I think the only thing that is interesting is like it in it's almost like in a South Asian family, there's no other option. Like this is just what you do. You have to take care of your family, and you have to take care of your parents. You don't have a choice to put them in, a home, or because you just don't do that. So you have to find a way around it. And um there's certain things that you just don't argue about, I suppose, and yet at the same time, these characters are also very Canadian, and trying to live their lives very individually. So yeah, I don't think I answered your question. It's just kind of the conundrum, I think, of what they're going through.
Yeah, well, it sort of seems like that again, this goes back to that coming of age. Everybody's trying to sort of understand and piece that together. And I think there's a beautiful moment. I think is it the twin brother? Is it Parm? Parm is the twin,
Hmm.
where he says, I want you to know who I am. He's sitting there. And that was one of the things I wondered, see if you could speak to. What do you think it means to know who you are? And do you think that gets more complicated when there's family involved?
Well, totally, because we see each other as like our 5-year-old selves, right? Like I'm always going to see my kids as like 5, even when they're like 40, you know? So you have the baggage of history. And there's nothing, no one more crueler to you than your own family, and no one more loving towards you than your own family. So it's such a complicated relationship. But to know who you are, I mean, I think you're right. Like at a certain point, you have to break away from what the expectations are of you from your own family, and then possibly come back and be like, you know what, this is who I am. And so you have to see me in this new way. Um, Esther Perel, actually, I don't know if you know. Do you know who she is?
I'm sorry, what was her name again?
Esther Perel.
No, no, I don't.
She's actually she talks about she's a therapist. She talks about relationships. She's really quite incredible. But
Okay.
she talks about how in a marriage, the average person is married 3 times,
Hmm.
but you can probably get married to the same person 3 times. But because we change, we're
Hmm.
different people, and so you have to meet each other again. And I think the same is true in family. Like we're constantly changing and evolving, and you have to meet each other again. And we don't have the luxury of divorcing each other. I don't have the luxury of divorcing my mother or my father or my sisters or brothers. So you have to kind of find a way to sort of reintroduce yourself to these people again, over time, over decades and decades.
I love that. I've never heard that before. That's really interesting. Because yeah, there is that constant growth and
Mhm.
relationships. At the same time, it sort of says people can be different.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? That we can change, and we can change and grow together if we want to. And if we don't, then we just leave and we find someone else in a relationship, right? But you can't do that in family quite as easily.
No, no, it's much more
Mhm.
difficult.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's interesting. One of the things that I thought was really interesting about this too, we talk about the family dynamic, is the power of shame in this story. It weighs heavily. It
Hmm.
seems to land on everyone's shoulders in different ways. I was wondering, what do you think it is about that makes it so powerful, and how do we overcome that, or can we?
I mean, I think shame is such a big part of the South Asian experience, to be quite honest with you. Like I think every culture has its own sort of obstacle and its own thing that it has to sort of overcome. And I think sort of like generationally, the trauma has of shame has actually landed pretty hard on a lot of people, and they're recognizing it now. But so much of South Asian experience is like, you can't do that because what is like so and so's mother gonna say? You can't do that. You can't be an artist because, like, you have to be a doctor because this is what's good for the family. You cannot divorce anyone because even if that person's mean to you, or even if that person's cheating on you, because like it's gonna look so bad. And so sort of that like heaviness of duty, but even more than duty, just sort of the heaviness of the shame of it all is really sort of like embedded, I think, in our culture. And I think that's the thing that, you know, as a South Asian person, as a Sikh Punjabi person, I know that I've been trying to overcome, you know, internally for a long time, so that I don't pass down those beliefs and that kind of energy to my own children, you know. And I think, yes, that's exactly the same in this film. I mean, the father was tough on the kids, and you know, used like he would spank. I'm so hesitant to use the word abuse, but that is what it is. Like, he was violent towards particularly Mona. And I'm hesitant to use it because it's such an ingrained part of the, like, maybe not everyone's experience as a South Asian, but I just know, like, growing up, I had a friend who was a Sikh Punjabi guy, and you know, we would laugh about it, but he'd be like, oh yeah, when I was a kid and I did something wrong, my dad would just tie me up to the balcony and, like, you know, hit me and like leave me there. And I'm like, and then he's like, haha, those Punjabi parents, you know. And that was like, that's how we sort of coped. That's how a lot of people sort of experience adolescence and experience childhood, is from those types of experiences. And nobody thought that it was like bad. It was just like, Punjabis are just like tougher, you know. um and so I think yeah, that obviously weighs on these characters. And it was something that I really wanted to bring to light, was, you know, what are we laughing at here? What are we actually like, what are we actually experiencing here?
Yeah, yeah. And there's that conversation with Mona and Parm in the backyard, where he makes a comment, or she said, oh well, I've had worse, you know. And he goes, it was pretty bad.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, it's so easy to just shrug it off, be like, oh yeah, my dad used to hit me with a shoe growing up, like that was just like the thing. And it's just, but what are we doing? Like, what are we really saying? Why are we normalizing this?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. um yeah, I think that's amazing and so honest, and I appreciated that. um One of the things, just talking about you here too, is I mean, you've worked with some phenomenal storytellers throughout your career, just incredible directors and writers. I was wondering, what have you learned from them in regards to telling your own story?
Oh, so much. I mean, um I think, to be really specific, to be really, really, really specific, to be really, really, really honest.
Mm.
It's just hard to do, you know. Like, I know when I was giving out the script for a few people to read, people told me, like, maybe Parm shouldn't be outwardly gay. Like, maybe that's more of a question mark, because what's the South Asian community going to say?
Mm.
Um, and I just, like, I couldn't not do it, not because I wanted some big, like, oh my gosh moment, but just, it just had, like, it just seemed right. It just felt like, what was I hiding? And yeah, it might mean, you know, people feeling really uncomfortable or hating the film or whatever, but it just seemed like I had to make that call, and I had to make it specific, and I had to make it true to this character and his experiences. And I think the best storytellers that I've worked with do that. They're fearless, and they're not afraid to talk about the hard things, or to show the hard things, without any vanity, you know. I think that's the through line from all of them.
That's interesting. Yeah, and I mean, as we just as we're wrapping up here, I was wondering about the response that you've had from the South Asian community. Anybody who's seen the film, I thought it was great. I think it's phenomenal. But I was wondering what you've been told.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, like, I would say 96% of the messages I've gotten has been so positive, has been really just like heartfelt. And um I actually got this really great email from someone like that I didn't know, that they found me on Instagram, and they're like, you know, I'm from a Sikh Punjabi family and I'm in Arkansas. I'm studying medicine and I feel so lonely here. And I watched your film and it was so amazing to just hear like Punjabi that felt so familiar. And it just made me understand my parents more
Mm.
and like be so grateful to them, like to know that a film can do that to someone. And I know I've felt it when watching some like a film that I love, but to know that this film is doing that for other people, where they actually really felt seen, it has been like incredible. There's been a few people have been like, you know, felt like there was some disrespect towards the culture, but you know, there's you're gonna get that, and I welcome it. I'm curious about it actually.
Well, I appreciate that, and honestly, the film is wonderful. From my perspective, I thought it was great, and I'm just so thankful for the chance to chat with you about it. Thank you. I wish you the best.
Oh,
Thanks so much.
thank you. I'm so grateful that you took the time today. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Like